How do you think Bernie's doing
And
so
let me
far?
just add on to that.
What?
Actually, I guess it gets into that. I guess it actually gets into that area. The thing is, when we were considering months back, what's going to happen if Bernie runs, depending on whether either actual, demonstrable progressives run or people who are sort of pitching themselves as new progressives.
Right.
The worry was that they're going to siphon votes from each other. And that, in the end, might be the case. But I think there's actually going to be far less of that on the progressive side than the centrist side. I mean, Elizabeth Warren, she is having problems already connecting with people, despite the fact that she's putting forward some of the most bold plans in legislation in terms of taxation and issues like that. I think you've got, Andrew Yang has some good ideas in certain areas, but virtually no one knows who he is just yet. That might change, but it might not. Tulsi Gabbard is popular too, but again, has virtually no name recognition. They can take some support from Bernie, but I have a feeling that Kamala Harris, Booker, Gillibrand, and a number of other senators and representatives on the centrist side they're gonna fight over votes on that end of the spectrum, I think, far more than the progressives will.
Yeah, I think that's totally true. And I guess I also think Elizabeth Warren, she missed her moment. Bernie wanted her to run in 2016. She didn't, and now Bernie leads a movement. And I actually think that's been a key thing that this is definitely one where I see a big disjuncture between quote unquote normal people versus pundits, right? Like pundits were so, because there is that weird group of people that's fixated on hating Bernie, and they just pound it and pound it and pound it. And I think some people, I mean, I will say in this case, I was right. I never particularly internalized that, because anytime I had a conversation with a person who cared about and was involved in politics on the progressive side, who wasn't like a media person, they were all like, when is Bernie going to announce, right? Like that's all they had to say. And I think that he is the leader because of his success in 2016. And also, while Elizabeth Warren is a great candidate and putting forth really good ideas, she doesn't understand that in order to do that, you need a movement behind you. So just this idea that you're going to go into an incredibly hostile Congress, Republican, but of course many Democrats, and attempt to challenge the American oligarchy, and that you're going to do it through how brilliant your white papers are. No. Bernie understands that there's going to be a huge amount of conflict and mobilization. And then, and people get pissed when I say this, but I'll just say, like Andrew Yang, I've looked into him a little bit, and I've already seen him say very different things. Like, is UBI a supplement to a broad base of social programs, or is it the libertarian, actually, here's $1,000 and we're going to get rid of social programs? And I don't know what his position is, but I'm less clear than I should be. And, Tulsi Gabbard, I've gone easier on her recently because I feel like the media does really have it in for her, and it's kind of disgusting. And I like her position on Venezuela and marijuana and Medicare for all and so on. But I can't overlook the ties to the far right in India and the changing position on refugees and torture. I'm sorry, those are not just little things to me, just like Kamala Harris's, criminal justice record, or them going to AIPAC and saying Israel can do whatever the hell it wants is an issue for all of them except Bernie. So.
Yeah, I mean, look, what I hope is going to happen during this primary is that we are able, we've never been able to enter into a primary like this and say we have not one, but multiple actual legitimate progressives that we can choose between. And hopefully we will be able to actually debate their merits, listing their pros, listing their cons, without every consideration of a con being considered a smear against that person's moral fiber or whatever.
Right.
There are candidates that are better on certain issues than on others. Like Elizabeth Warren on a lot of the policies I really like, but she really does not seem to be a good campaigner, and that is not going to work well in a crowded field like this. I think that Tulsi Gabbard, I like a number of her positions. I like that in the most recent town hall, she was really stressing finally dealing with sexual assault in the military. That's something that very rarely gets talked about, and she has a sort of uniquely, a perfect position to speak on that with authority on. But the thing is, as much as she stresses, ending regime change wars and things like that, there are a number of candidates that would do that. I don't think that her position on those issues is any more progressive than Bernie Sanders. He just talks about it while also talking about 15 other topics in a big speech,
Well, and I think also Bernie is and he's moved significant. I mean, his foreign policy of today versus 2016 is light years ahead and better. And I think that
certainly more coherent.
It's much more coherent. And again, when he talks about foreign policy, I mean, he had that global progressive summit in Vermont where he had, Fernando Haddad from the Workers' Party. He had Varoufakis. I mean, he's talking about not just being opposed to regime change, but also global oligarchy, also, all of these other issues that interconnect. And I have to say, like, to me, again, I'll just say, like, Tulsi Gabbard voting for Republican anti-refugee bills, that is a serious problem for me. And again, I agree with you. It's not about, attacking her or whatever, but, especially in today's world, this wasn't like back when we were in college or whenever, where you'd say, Ron Paul opposes all of these wars because he's basically an isolationist xenophobe, but at least he's the only person on stage saying that we shouldn't be bombing 40 different countries at once. Well, in today's race, that isn't the dynamic anymore. And, and I think the fact that Bernie is putting it inside the broader message, that still stands out to me.
Yeah. So, look, I'm trying to keep an open mind. Obviously, right. I'm not going to lie and say that my mind is 100% open. At this point, if I had to press a button, I would press it for Bernie Sanders. I wouldn't really second guess it. I'd do it super fast. I'd bruise my finger when I do it. So I am supporting him over the other progressives in the race, but I really want those progressives to be in the race. I want them to be on that debate stage. It's going to be crowded, but I interviewed Andrew Yang, and I didn't come away with quite the same impression, but I also haven't read 30 of his interviews.
No, I'm interested. What impression did you come away with? Because I'm basing this. It's super cursory. So I liked him in the Breakfast Club interview, and then I read some of the stuff on his site that I thought that seriously raised my eyebrow. But way better than me if you interviewed him. What did you come away with?
Well, I did a 10. It wasn't a sit down Vanity Fair thing. I did a 10-minute segment with him, but right. I liked much of what he was saying. I have to do more research, and we're going to have what's going to feel like the rest of our life to do it over the next year. Right. But I want that topic to be raised on the stage. I want Tulsi Gabbard to be stressing this particular set of foreign policy concerns, because while like Bernie has his bailiwick, like he has positions on all these issues, but he is going to talk about oligarchy and dealing with structural economic financial problems and things like that. Elizabeth Warren is probably going to stress taxation reform. And I want them all there to be doing that. And I don't feel like I have to decide right now. And also, I mean, there are people who are committed to all these candidates. Like, there are hardcore Elizabeth Warren fans. There are hardcore Tulsi Gabbard fans. And not only do I want their candidates in this, I want their supporters to be engaged in this race from the very beginning, so long as we can proceed through the primary in a way that, as these candidates start to drop off, like if Klobuchar leaves after a month and a half, I don't want everyone who supported her to be like, oh, well, after the Democratic Party, I'm voting Trump or anything. I kind of doubt that a Klobuchar voter would do that, but you get the idea. I want us to get through this. I don't know. I honestly have no idea. I think at the polls, she's probably at like 1 or 2%.
My goal for Klobuchar is not only is she out quickly, but I would like to see her primaried. I can't be ecumenical about her. She's just been awful. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would say out of the declared candidates on the Democratic side, she's the one that I have by far the least interest in. I could probably be swayed to Howard Schultz before her, but I'm joking. I have no interest in him in it either. But anyway, I think that we have a lot of great candidates that bring something unique to the field. I am already leaning in one direction, but it's not impossible that I could be swayed.
John, you have to pick, and you have to pick now. It's Bernie or nobody, buddy. Hell yeah. I just, for me, it's like I really hear that perspective, and, I've been transparent from the beginning that if Bernie ran again, I would definitely support him. But I just, to me, it's like, especially because he's putting so much more on the table, it does seem like an evolutionary process where it's like, yeah, he's just, all right, he's ahead. Like, it's going to be interesting. And this would be the best case scenario debate. If you have him and Gabbard on the stage undermining all of the kind of trash foreign policy of the Democratic establishment, but then it's going to be interesting to see, like, well, what do they say? He and Gabbard get into a fight about Iran? Because Bernie's also been way ahead in terms of preserving Obama's huge accomplishment of the Iran deal. And Gabbard actually was basically a no on that until the very end. So, to me, But even getting into that intricacy is like a major step up in terms of what we're watching on stage, without a doubt. You've just watched a Michael Brooks show video, and you can watch all of our full main live shows every Tuesday night at around 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and subscribe to get all of the clips you want. We're covering the globe. We're focusing on international relations, the intellectual dark web. We're having fun. We're doing deep dives with a lot of amazing guests. Of course, become a patron for the whole thing at patreon.com/TMBS, or subscribe to this YouTube channel and help us keep growing and get that content out there. Subscribe below.